Well, and
also store nuclear waste. And I know this was conversations, well, I haven't actually conversed with him, but I do know him. You know, one of the things that's become very, the one we used in the main as far as our in-state produced low-level waste. Right. It's becoming very apparent to the elected leaders in all of it. This information came to us from people who have been testifying for us. And you accuse these people of being non-objective. Dr. Cox was one of those people. From nuclear power, nuclear medicine. And wouldn't Dr. Cox fit into that classification? Yes, and I think in most cases. Later on, you said he's a fairly objective man. Yes. The point I'm trying to get at is that we have been trying to learn as much about this. We haven't been involved, and this is not a cause with us. This is right. Well, I'm near. The nuclear industry excels. I would advocate, is that the public make the final decision, and that's what I make clear in my saying. Thank you.
My name is William Reynolds, and I'm with the American Civil Service Committee, which is a Quaker peace and social justice organization that was founded in 1917. Our office has been involved in issue collection, transportation, and handling of radioactive waste for the past federal agencies as well as the U.S. Senate. I have done some work here in Alabama, and ahead of such states as New York, California, and Illinois, which in terms of total volume are the top three producers of nuclear waste. When you compare Alabama with the neighboring states, you find out a fuel assembly is a gathering of about 100 to 200 individual fuel cans that are about the size of your finger and 12 to 15 feet long. These are held together and broken down into a whole host of what are called fission byproducts that contain such elements as cobalt-60, strontium-90, various isotopes of cesium, lead, and other long-lived and fuel element that has been out of a reactor for 6 months, allowed to decay for 6 months, will be emitting about 30 a lethal level of radioactivity. If you were to be exposed to an unshielded spent fuel assembly for less than a minute, you would receive a lethal dose of radiation. Due to these high levels of radioactivity, spent fuel might $500,000 to $1 million. It can take as long as a year's lead time to build. Although the casks are very heavily constructed, not one of those that's licensed to haul spent fuel around this was conducted by Sandia Laboratories for the Department of Energy, or perhaps even the committee has seen the films that were produced of these particular tests.
First actions upon learning of a proposed Westinghouse fuel fabrication plant near our city, our reactions were not blind celebration, but careful scrutiny of the facts. We were intrigued by the economic possibilities, but they were secondary to the desirability of this proposed industry. To enlighten ourselves in this area, we sought information and advice from cities under similar circumstances. Our first contact was with the state of South Carolina, where a similar type plant is situated in Columbia. Our studies brought to us comments from Governor James Edwards of that state, applauding Westinghouse as a very good neighbor and a very clean operation. In fact, he added dismay that Westinghouse was not locating their second plant in California. The Columbia Chamber of Commerce and agencies such as OSHA, it should be as safe an industry as we could possibly want. With answers such as this, we felt the economic question could be faced very sensibly. Those factors to us were clear. Westinghouse would be investing over $60 million in our area. This would result in 2 years or more of economic growth due to increased labor needs of such a project. Also, Westinghouse's policy has long been to use as much local labor and contractors as possible. Westinghouse would employ over 400 permanent employees in our area. Nationwide studies indicate that in a city the size of ours, 400 industrial jobs would result in approximately 250 to 300 local service-oriented jobs, or a net gain of approximately 650 jobs for our area. The Westinghouse payroll would pump at least $6.5 million each year into local economies in our area. Bearing this in mind, we've kept a close watch on the entire situation and try to stay continually abreast of matters relating to the growth of fanatical enthusiasm on either side. All questions we have posed to Westinghouse have been answered fully to our satisfaction. We have studied the applications and statements filed by Westinghouse and find no significant problems with them. We realize that our nation must make decisions and choices based on many immediate and long-range needs. The facts that we have seen in favor of this plant stand far above some wild claims and accusations that we've heard made. Therefore, we feel that in light of the present and future energy crisis, coupled with the economic potentials of this plant and nuclear energy as a whole to our state, make this particular industry an acceptable and moreover a very desirable project for our area. They pretend to digest. However, we would like to express our faith in an American system that has worked for 200 years.
Next week, some of you will go to the polls to take part in the process of naming the next President of the United States. Pat Paulson. Next week, some of you will go to the polls to take part in the process of naming the next President of the United States. Next week, some of you will go to the polls to take part in the process of naming the next President of the United States.
Okay.
But when you vote, even though you pull the lever, but when you vote, even though you pull the lever next to the name of a presidential candidate, you aren't really voting for a president. You're actually voting for a group of presidential electors who will gather in the state capitol on December the 9th and vote for a president and a vice president. Oh, wait a minute. And all of Alabama's electors will vote for the candidate who gets the most votes here in the state of Alabama. And what that means is that if 49% of us vote for candidate A, 51% of us vote for candidate C, then candidate C gets all of Alabama's electoral votes. The 49% that candidate A got is gone. I've lost my place instead of ad-libbing it. Ready?
Yeah, you're right.
And all of Alabama's electors will vote for the candidate who gets the most votes here in the state of Alabama. If 49% of us, for instance, vote for candidate A and 51% vote for candidate B, all of Alabama's electoral votes will be cast for candidate B. Candidate A gets nothing for his 49% of the Alabama vote. And all of Alabama's electors are going to vote for the candidate who gets the most votes here in the state of Alabama. What this means is that if 49% of us vote for candidate A and 51% of us vote for candidate C, all of Alabama's electoral votes will go for candidate C. Candidate A gets nothing for his 49% of the Alabama vote. Critics like Ray Jenkins say that not only can it happen, and would have in 1976 had 10,000 votes been cast differently, but that it might happen next week. Those favoring the system counter that attacking the Electoral College is like attacking the Constitution itself, and they point out that it has served us well. One thing both sides do agree on, if it's going to happen, it will happen in an election year where the popular vote is very close. And one thing that the pollsters agree on at this point is next week is too close to call. Skip Haley, WSFA TV News. Critics like Ray Jenkins say that not only can it happen, and would have in 1976 had 10,000 votes been cast differently, but that it might happen next week. Those favoring the system. Critics like Ray Jenkins say that not only can it happen, it would have happened in 76 except for 10,000 votes, but that it might happen next week. People favoring the Electoral College say that attacking the college is like attacking the Constitution itself, and they say it served us well. One thing both sides agree on, it's most likely to happen in a year that the popular vote is very close. And one thing most of the pollsters agree on, next week, the presidential election is still too close to call. Skip Haley, WSFA TV News.
To teach because they have no contracts?
As far as I know, no teachers have refused to teach. In one of my classes, an instructor had made a comment on whether he'll be here next week or not, but he taught 2 chapters of material, so I think he'll still be here next week to put us through that test.
Is there any tension between the administration and the teachers at this point?
Not that I know of, and there's no tension between the students, administration, or teachers.
Is this the type of thing that goes on every year then?
Yeah, it's a new school year, it's fall. You know, you're going to go through this, you know, and someone may be trying to better their bargaining position, but it's just a matter of, it's the fall, and these things are to be expected. And I'm sure it's pretty normal for every university to go through this.
Have there been meetings this morning? I understand the dean of the business college and others were meeting, is that right?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So that people sat back to make sure that all the supplies necessary. Cyclone B gas was a major project. It was a special gas used to poison, to gas the Jews for the gas chambers. A man named Jan Karski visited the White House in 1943 and brought an eyewitness account, his own, of what he had seen in the camp at Melzage, where Jews were taken and killed. Do something extraordinary. Indeed, Kurt Gerstein, after the war, was arrested, served in the SS after all, was put in jail in the ultimate act of cynicism, and in fact, dramatized in its most dramatic way. The people of Denmark, who had a very small number of Jews in their community, stood in solidarity with their Jewish fellow citizens. And indeed, when the Germans, so that over 90% of the Jews of Poland and of Lithuania were put to death. So here you have the 2 stark contrasts, 95% saved, 90% and more killed. I believe if we confront it, it changes or challenges our most precious beliefs, and I believe if we do not confront it, the chance of a renewal, of a reoccurrence is very great. And because